Welcome to Overheard Story. Sit back, enjoy the story, and feel free to leave a comment after. Even a few words matter more than you think. Christmas in our apartment had always been Claire's favorite time of year. She had a way of making everything feel pulled out of a lifestyle catalog, cozy, yet impressive. The table was set with red linen napkins folded like tiny trees, gold-rimmed glasses she picked up from a vintage shop, and flickering candles that made the whole space smell like cinnamon and clove. She even had our little speaker humming out a low jazz playlist. It was the kind of scene that made people lean back and say, "Wow, you two really know how to host." Her parents arrived first, followed by her younger sister, Meg, and Meg's latest boyfriend, who looked about 19 and wore a beanie indoors. Then came two of our mutual friends from the design agency, and finally Marcus, one of mine from undergrad who everyone just called the Anchorman because he had that square-jawed, too confident look. Laughter, hugs, clinking glasses. I smiled. I passed out drinks. I did the whole thing. But I felt something off before I even knew what it was. Claire had walked in from the hallway maybe 30 seconds before I did. She had been downstairs helping the concierge buzz people in. I remember seeing her reflection in the mirror above the credenza as she took off her coat. That forest green one I got her for Christmas 2 years ago. She wore it constantly. The moment felt normal. Nothing dramatic. She slipped off her boots, hung the coat on the hook near the door, and brushed her curls over one shoulder like she always did. But when I went to grab a bottle of Pinot Grigio from the fridge and carry it over to the table, she was already reaching for the wine glasses on the bar cart. That's when I caught it, that scent. It wasn't a smell I recognized from anything we owned. Not from her usual perfume. Not from the detergent. Not even one of the free sample things she sometimes brought back from her work events. This was sharp, fresh, unmistakably cologne. Masculine, clean, layered with citrus and some kind of woodsy undertone that hit right in the back of my throat. It was the kind of scent you wear when you're trying to make a lasting impression. Expensive, subtle, but strong enough that it hadn't faded. Even though she'd taken the coat off minutes ago, I handed her the bottle and asked it without thinking. Lightly, like I was joking. "New cologne in the coat closet?" She glanced up. Not startled, not suspicious. Just perfectly blank for half a second before that easy smile lit up her face. "Oh, ha! Yeah, probably. One of the guys at work gave me a promo box of fragrance samples. I think something must have leaked. You know how those tiny bottles are." That was it. That was the whole explanation. And then she moved on. She uncorked the wine, poured it like nothing had happened, and turned back to the group. The conversation shifted to something about New Year's plans, and Meg was showing someone pictures of a beach house they wanted to rent for a group trip. Everyone laughed. Someone asked if we were still planning to go skiing in February. I didn't respond. I just nodded and sat down next to Claire, watching her as she tucked her hair behind her ear and leaned into the conversation like nothing was wrong. But I couldn't eat. Not one bite. Because the longer I sat there, the more my mind kept replaying that scent. It had been on her coat. Not the bag, not something she brushed past. It was concentrated around the collar, where someone's arms might have been. It wasn't faint either, not a whiff. It was fresh, like it had been worn just minutes before she walked in the door. Like someone had been close. Too close. And the thing that kept twisting in my gut wasn't just the cologne. It was the way she answered. Not surprised. Not confused. Not even defensive. Just prepared. Like she'd practiced that response in her head. Like she had a line ready, not in case someone asked, but because she knew someone might. That's when my stomach turned. I watched her laugh at one of Marcus's dumb stories. Sip her wine like it was any other Christmas. And I realized something. I didn't trust her answer. Not because I wanted to catch her in a lie, but because she hadn't flinched. And when someone doesn't flinch at a question like that, it usually means they've already rehearsed their alibi. The rest of dinner blurred into motion. Turkey, roasted carrots, soft jazz in the background, people reaching across the table for more stuffing. I passed the cranberry sauce. I nodded when someone mentioned how mild the winter had been. But inside I was spiraling. When had I last smelled that scent? Never. That was the answer. And I knew what I wore. Something musky, a little peppery. Not that sharp citrus cedar blend. And Claire wasn't the kind of person to wear men's cologne for herself. She loved her florals, her lavender body mist. She kept things consistent, predictable. If something had changed, it wasn't random. As the dishes cleared and Claire disappeared into the kitchen with Meg to portion out dessert, I stayed at the table, fingers resting on the stem of my glass. Half the bottle was gone, and I hadn't taken more than 2 sips. My appetite was *T. All I could think about was that scent. That one moment. The soft way Claire dodged. The way she didn't even hesitate. It didn't feel like a lie. Felt like a routine. Like she'd told that story or something like it before. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But that's the thing about trust. Once a crack appears, even something small like a scent, it starts letting in water. It seeps through everything. Past memories start to shift. Moments that felt harmless suddenly feel loaded. You start wondering, how many other things didn't I notice? I watched Claire as she walked back in with a tray of plates, laughing at something Meg said. She was radiant, charming, effortless, the kind of person who could sell a story with just her eyes. But now all I could see was someone hiding in plain sight. The wine bottle was empty by the time dessert came around. I excused myself to the bathroom and stood at the sink longer than necessary, staring at my reflection like I was waiting for some version of myself to say, "You're overthinking this." But I wasn't. I knew I wasn't. I didn't smell like that. None of our friends did. That scent, whoever it belonged to, had been right up against her, close enough to leave a trace. And Claire hadn't even blinked. That was the moment something inside me shifted. I didn't know what yet. I didn't have proof. No texts, no photos, no caught in the act scandal. Just a scent, a simple question, and a feeling in my chest that wouldn't go away. She was hiding something, and I wasn't going to ignore it. Not this time. After Christmas, nothing felt quite the same. It wasn't like Claire did anything differently, at least not in ways most people would notice. She was still smiling over her coffee, still texting during breakfast, still humming through her morning routine. But now that the seed of doubt had been planted, everything started to feel calibrated. That's the word that came to mind. Not fake, not even dishonest, just carefully managed. Like every move had been thought through a beat too early. Every response buffered by just enough charm to avoid scrutiny. I started noticing things I'd missed before. Her phone, for one. She'd always been a little protective of it. But lately, it never left her side. If she got up to grab a drink, it came with her. If she showered, it sat face down on the counter, screen black. Not charging, just silent. And that was another thing. The notifications were gone. I realized it slowly. No buzzes. No pings. No little preview texts lighting up her lock screen. It was like she had manually turned every setting off, or worse, was using something she didn't want me to see. Then there was her sleep. Claire used to fall asleep in the middle of conversation, cheek buried into my chest, murmuring half-thoughts until she drifted off. But sometime in the last few months, she started facing the wall instead. No cuddling, no reaching for my hand, just silence, and the occasional midnight scroll when she thought I was asleep. One night, she forgot to silence it fully. I saw the glow before she yanked the blanket higher to block it. I didn't ask. I wasn't ready to sound like the paranoid boyfriend. But that glow stayed burned into my mind, like the echo of a secret I wasn't supposed to hear. It wasn't just the phone. She started working late more often. Her design meetings suddenly took place offsite, sometimes without the rest of her team. When I asked if she wanted to collaborate on a layout or review mock-ups together, something we used to do all the time, she'd smile and say, "It's just a small thing. I'll show you when it's polished." Polished. Like everything else in her life now. Even the way she dressed changed. She started wearing more form-fitting blouses. Subtle but different. Sleek makeup. Always just a little extra on the days she claimed she had client-facing time. Then came the laptop. That moment was the first time I felt something crack. She was working at the kitchen table when I got home early. Her keys had just fallen from her purse and clattered to the ground, so I knelt to grab them. When I looked up, just a glance, the screen was open. And I saw it. Not for long. Just enough to freeze me in place. It was a photo. Claire, smiling. Not the Instagram smile she posts. A real one. That soft, unguarded version of her. She was leaning into a man's chest. His arm wrapped over her shoulder like it belonged there. He was wearing a slate gray blazer, something tailored, expensive. And her hand? Resting over his heart like she'd done it 1,000 times. Claire slammed the laptop shut. I looked at her. What was that? She blinked. A reference photo. For a layout. You looked kind of happy in it. She laughed. Forced tight. It's just for a client. We're building a mock campaign around creative couples. I'm the placeholder for now. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. But she knew I didn't buy it. I think that's why, the next day, I noticed all our photos were gone from her phone. Deleted? I asked. She said she was freeing up space. That she had everything backed up. But when I checked the cloud folder we used to share, her uploads had stopped 2 months ago. There were other things, too. The body wash she brought home from the gym didn't smell like her. Or me. It was unmistakably masculine. Sandalwood. Eucalyptus. Something bold. I mentioned it once, playfully, but she brushed it off. Said the gym switched brands in the locker room. Said it must have rubbed off on her towel. I nodded. But inside I was doing the math. Phone always face down. Late nights. Deleted photos. That cologne. The photo with the man in the blazer. The too calm lie. The shift in her body language. The distance in bed. None of it felt accidental anymore. I started checking timestamps. She'd say she was working until 9, but her Slack activity stopped at 7. She said she had a dinner meeting. I saw her tagged in a friend's story sipping wine in a different place entirely. I wasn't looking for guilt. I was hoping, maybe foolishly, for something that would disprove it all. Some reason. A friend. A mentor. Someone whose presence could explain the patterns without breaking us. But I didn't find that. Instead, I kept finding empty air where truth used to live. It's strange how much silence can say. I never went through her phone. I wanted to. God. I thought about it every night she turned her back to me in bed. But I didn't. Because if I did, if I saw something undeniable, then I'd have to do something about it. I'd have to confront the fracture that had already started splitting across the middle of our relationship. And I wasn't ready. Not yet. But I also couldn't unknow what I now knew or felt. And by then, feeling was more dangerous than knowing. So I waited, because something was coming. I could feel it in my chest. That tension you get before a storm breaks. It didn't matter how many candles she lit or how many dinners she plated just right. The truth has a scent. And I'd smelled it. She said she was going away for 3 days. Some kind of off-site creative retreat in New Hampshire. A design-focused immersion at a boutique hotel tucked away in the woods. Supposedly no Wi-Fi, minimal service. All meant to inspire focus. She even printed the schedule out like she wanted to prove how real it was. She stood by the door with her weekender bag slung over one shoulder, phone already in her hand, fingers tapping like she was nervous. Not a goodbye kiss, just a quick, "I'll text if I can." Then she was gone. And I stood there, staring at the door after it closed, the silence in the apartment louder than anything she'd said all week. That's when I opened my laptop. I still had access to her iCloud, old habit from when we used to sync calendars, track groceries, little things. She never revoked it. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she didn't think I'd remember. Her location showed her crawling up I-93 for about 2 hours. But then it stopped. Not at the retreat she claimed she'd booked. Not even close. It stopped at a place called Silver Pines. That name hit me like a fist. I knew it. I knew it because 2 years ago we went there for our anniversary. It was in * mate, quiet, expensive. The kind of place you don't forget. Back then, she said she loved it because it felt like no one else existed. I checked her old email receipts, and there it was. Silver Pines Boutique Hotel. Same address. Same vibe. But this time, she wasn't there with me. I stared at the screen for a long time, letting the weight settle. Letting the denial crack. Then I packed a bag. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't message Claire. I just got in the car, started driving north, and let the silence fill every mile. 2 hours later, I pulled off onto the wooded road that led to Silver Pines. The parking lot looked exactly how I remembered. Half full, quiet, like a place that kept its secrets. I didn't go in right away. I sat in the car for 20 minutes, palms sweating against the wheel, watching the entrance. My stomach turned with every person who walked in or out. Part of me hoped I was wrong, that this was a coincidence, that I'd walk in and find her with a team of designers, sticky notes and sketch pads in hand, just like she said. But I already knew. Eventually, I stepped inside. The lobby smelled like pine and wood polish. Soft jazz played over the speakers. A fire flickered in the stone hearth. The front desk attendant smiled at me. I nodded politely and made my way to the bar off to the side. I ordered a drink I wouldn't touch, asked for a small black gift box. I handed it to the bartender with instructions. He looked confused, but didn't ask questions. I found a seat near the window, angled so I could see the elevator. I waited. 25 minutes later, the doors opened. Claire stepped out. She was wearing a pale silver dress, one I'd never seen before. Elegant, fitted, clearly new. Her hair had been curled, softly pinned on one side. Her heels clicked delicately on the polished floor. And beside her, holding her hand, was the man from the photo. I recognized him instantly. Same gray blazer, same smug, polished face. Not from our world. I'd never met him, but I'd seen him. Tucked into that blurry photo she'd pretended was a mock-up. He leaned down and whispered something into her ear. She laughed. Really laughed. Like I hadn't heard in months. Not the polite dinner laugh. Not the distracted hum she gave me when I asked about her day. This one was real. Open. Careless. Like she belonged here. The bartender approached them with the box. Claire paused, confused. The man looked at her. She opened it. Inside was her ring. The one she hadn't worn in 2 weeks. And a small folded note. You took it off. So did I. She froze. Her face lost all color in a single breath. Her fingers clutched the note tighter. Her head turned slowly, scanning the room. Her eyes found me. We didn't speak. We didn't move. I didn't look away. She stared at me like someone caught in a dream or a nightmare. Her mouth parted slightly, as if she might say something. But she didn't. There was nothing left to say. I held her gaze for a few long seconds. Then I stood, turned around, and walked out the door. The cold air hit me like a reset button. I stepped into the night, into the dark woods and silent snow, and didn't look back. I didn't drive right away. I sat on the hood of the car, letting the cold soak through my jacket, letting the weight of it all finally settle. That was the moment it stopped being suspicion. That was the moment it became real. There was no more guessing, no more piecing things together. She was here, with him, laughing, holding hands, and whatever excuse she might have had, work, confusion, losing herself, didn't matter anymore, because truth doesn't always need words. Sometimes it just walks out of an elevator in a silver dress and looks you in the eye. I got home just after midnight, didn't turn on the lights, didn't drop my keys into the bowl like I always did. I just stood in the doorway for a moment, the quiet pressing against me like a wall. Then I moved, not out of anger, not in panic, but with purpose. I unpacked the bag I had brought to Silver Pines, set everything down exactly where it came from. Jacket on the hook, wallet in the drawer, the kind of mindless rituals that keep your hands busy while your heart recalibrates. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and started pulling threads loose. No shouting, no dramatic confrontation, no war, just the slow, deliberate process of cutting ties. First, I opened our shared subscriptions, streaming services, grocery apps, cloud storage. I clicked her name off each account, removed permissions, changed passwords, sent myself confirmations, one by one, like flipping off lights in rooms we no longer lived in. Then I went to the bank. We had separate checking but a shared emergency fund, and my direct deposit still hit a joint account. Within 20 minutes, I had rerouted my paycheck to a new one. A clean slate. I didn't drain the shared funds. I wasn't interested in revenge. But I pulled my half. Exactly. Next came the apartment. The lease was under my name, had been since before we met. Claire moved in after 6 months of dating. We never adjusted it. I'd once considered adding her, but something told me not to. Call it instinct or laziness. Either way, it made this part easier. I pulled up the termination form and submitted notice to vacate by the end of the month. I knew she'd want to keep it, but I also knew I couldn't stay. Too many ghosts in the walls. Too many memories pretending to be home. I printed the confirmation. Filed it under a folder I created that night. Exit. The next morning, I woke early and began packing her things. Not as punishment. Not with fury. Just with precision. One room at a time. Clothing in neatly folded piles. Tech accessories grouped with chargers. Books, personal files, makeup drawers, jewelry. Even the little clay mug she made in college. The one with the uneven lip she kept her pens in. I boxed them separately. Then I labeled each box with her name and the contents. Claire, bedroom. Clothing. Claire, office. Tech. Claire, bathroom. Personal items. Every item was treated with care. Because even if she hadn't, I still could. I stacked the boxes near the door and called the building concierge. Hi. I have some packages for Claire Grayson. She'll be picking them up. Please don't release them until she arrives personally. Yes, sir. Please don't allow her upstairs without me here. Understood. I thanked them and hung up. Then I deleted her access to our smart lock. By noon, the apartment felt different. Lighter. Not peaceful, not yet, but sterile. Like it had been hit by a hard winter wind, clearing out everything that didn't belong. I sat on the couch and checked my email. 2 new messages. Both from Claire. The first was short. Subject. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. You didn't deserve this. I messed up. I know that. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. The second came 2 hours later. Subject. I need to explain. Jake, this wasn't supposed to happen like this. I don't even know when I started drifting. It wasn't about him. I swear it wasn't just that. I've been lost. And you've been amazing. Truly. But I didn't feel connected. I didn't feel seen. I didn't know how to tell you without breaking something. I didn't plan to fall for anyone. It wasn't a plan. But I can't undo it now. I just need you to know that I never stopped caring about you. This wasn't about revenge. Or boredom. Or anything cruel. I'll come get my things soon. I promise I'll respect your space. I'm sorry, Claire. I read it once. Then again. Then I moved the email to the folder I'd labeled Ashes. Every message from her would go there. No response. No drama. Just record keeping. I wasn't angry in the way people expect. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to break plates or burn pictures. I just wanted distance. Not out of hatred. Out of self-respect. Because once you've been lied to that calmly, with smiles, with careful touches, with months of orchestrated normalcy, you stop needing explanations. You stop hoping for apologies that arrive too late. Instead, you build a clean break. You make it so they don't get to linger. Not in your inbox. Not in your home. Not in your bloodstream. By that evening, the apartment no longer looked like ours. Her coats were gone. Her shoes were boxed. The prints she'd hung on the walls were replaced by blank nails. I didn't even play music. Just let the quiet stretch out and settle. At midnight, I poured a single glass of whiskey, sat by the window, and let myself finally feel it. Not sadness, not fully. Something colder. A kind of clarity. The email came 2 days after I finished boxing the last of Claire's things. Subject line was simple. Meeting Mr. Grayson, her father. We weren't close, not really. But we had worked together. A few investment projects, early-stage ventures. He was old school, the kind of man who measured trust in how steady you kept your voice during a loss. When Claire and I got serious, he gave me a look that said, I see everything and I'll be watching. But he was always fair. Never warm, but never dismissive. Now he wanted to meet. No reason listed. Just a date, a time, and an office address downtown. I almost didn't go. Not because I was nervous, but because I didn't know what kind of performance I was supposed to give. I wasn't going to sit across from her father and explain why his daughter had chosen someone else. I didn't know him that, but I went anyway, out of curiosity, maybe closure, maybe to stop replaying the night at Silver Pines like a loop I couldn't exit. His office was just as I remembered, minimalist, glass walls, low lighting. A few paintings I assumed were original. He waved me in without standing, motioned toward the chair across from his. For a few seconds he said nothing, just studied me like I was a stock he was unsure about investing in. Then he leaned forward. "You're not the first man she's cheated on." The words landed so hard, I wasn't sure I heard him right. He said it calmly. No bitterness, just fact. "She's impulsive," he added, tapping the desk with 2 fingers. "She gets that from her mother. The difference is her mother only ever ran from things. Claire runs toward the next high." I didn't know what to say. "I won't ask for details," he continued. "Not my business. And frankly, I doubt yours would surprise me." He opened a file folder and pushed a small stack of documents toward me. "I looked over the concept you pitched back in October," he said. "The transparent investment platform, the frictionless onboarding, conflict-free capital pools. You were ahead of the curve." I blinked. "That pitch died months ago." He nodded once. "Yes, Claire convinced you to hold off. Said the timing wasn't right." I sat back. "Of course she did." "Wasn't personal," he added. "I didn't sign off on it because you didn't push. You let her decision become yours. That told me you were still building your backbone." "And now?" "Now you've got teeth," he said, no smile, no pause. "You walked away from my daughter without a single dramatic gesture. No threats, no gossip, no mess. That's rare." He folded his hands. "If you still want to launch it," he said, "I'll fund it. Full backing. But with one condition." I didn't move. "What's the condition?" "No mercy," he said. "No sentiment. If you're going to run a platform that claims to be ethical, then I expect you to actually be ethical. No bending. No favorites. No looking the other way when things get fuzzy. Not for friends. Not for exes. Not for me." I nodded slowly, because I knew exactly what he meant. Trust dies in softness. Not in betrayal, but in the slow erosion that comes from letting things slide. From looking away when the first red flag waves, thinking it's just a gust of wind. "Deal," I said. We shook on it. 15 minutes later, I was back on the street. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was moving forward instead of standing still. The platform took shape fast. Too fast, maybe. I worked 14-hour days, met with legal teams, developers, branding consultants. There wasn't time to grieve, and I didn't want it anyway. The pain felt clean when I channeled it into something with structure. Something that didn't lie to me in the dark. The pitch deck became a launch site. The wireframes turned into beta flows. I built rules into the very core of it. Transparency above all. No silent partnerships. No anonymous grants. No tangled interests. You either showed your face or didn't play. One night around 2 a.m., I sat in the near-empty office watching the dev environment refresh. I hadn't eaten dinner. My contacts were dry. My back hurt from the chair. But I felt something I hadn't in months. Control. Not over Claire. Not over the past. But over myself. Over how I moved next. I didn't post about the breakup. Didn't call friends to relive the story. When people asked where she was, I said, "We're not together." No details. No bitterness. Let them wonder. Let the silence speak for itself. Sometimes the most dignified thing you can do is leave cleanly, with no debris. 3 weeks after signing the deal, Claire emailed me again. Subject line: "Your name came up, Jake. I heard you met with my dad. I know what that means. I guess I'm glad in a weird way. You always had the ideas. I'm sorry I made you doubt them. I don't know if you hate me. I wouldn't blame you if you did. Just, if this takes off, I hope you remember who stood beside you when it was just sketches on napkins and late nights with too much coffee. I hope you remember the part that was real. I closed the message. Didn't delete it. Didn't respond. Just added it to ashes along with the others. She was right. There was a part that was real. But real things don't evaporate the moment another option walks into a hotel lobby. By spring, the platform had soft-launched to private investors. Feedback was sharp. Praise was louder. But I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Not until every link had been stress-tested. Every line of code audited. Every back door sealed. Grayson checked in occasionally. Always brief. Always to the point. "You've done well," he said once over the phone. "Don't let it make you soft." "I won't," I replied, because I understood now. Softness isn't about kindness. It's about letting someone keep access to your peace when they've shown they don't value it. It's about making space for someone who already moved out. Emotionally, morally, physically, and thinking maybe they'll come back the same. They don't. They never do. The last of Claire's boxes sat by the door. Taped. Labeled. Untouched. Inside one, I found the bracelet I gave her 2 years ago, the one engraved, "Breathe. I'm here." She used to wear it daily. I hadn't seen it in months. I placed it beside her ring, wrapped both in tissue, and added a note. "Let me know where to send." Hours later, she replied. Said she'd come by to get them. No questions. No long message. Just a line. I didn't want to see her, so I took the box to the concierge and asked them to hand it over when she arrived. I waited upstairs, watching through the window. She came late afternoon. Hoodie, sunglasses, hair tucked into a messy bun, like she didn't want to be recognized. She looked up once, toward my window, maybe hoping to catch my eyes, maybe not. I stepped back before she could. The next day, I sent the ring separately in a plain package. No note. No return address. It wasn't cruelty. It was final. I blocked her number, deleted the last photos. Then I drove out of the city, toward the trees, toward the quiet. Not to forget, but to stop breathing in what was already gone. 6 months later, I spoke at a business ethics forum in Chicago. The auditorium was packed. Lights low, questions sharp, handshakes firm. Then, between the rows, I saw her. Claire. Front section, 3rd row. She looked smaller somehow, like time had folded her inward. She didn't smile, didn't try to wave, but her eyes never left mine. She cried silently. I didn't change my expression. I didn't pause. I finished my speech, stepped off stage, and walked past her like she wasn't part of the world I lived in anymore. She said nothing, but she didn't need to, because everything I needed to know, I'd already seen. Back at that Christmas table, when I asked a simple question, and she smiled like nothing had happened.